Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's Wednesday Wisdom. Our Wednesday Wisdom is a series of public webinar focused on delivering relevant information to support business connectivity and sustainability in our region. Each session features a local business and subject matter expert and the opportunity for a Q&A. So I just want to go into quick housekeepings before we get started here. All attendees will be in listen-only mode, and to be respectful of everyone's time, we've allotted some time at the end of the presentation for a Q&A, so feel free to ask any questions using the Q&A section or the chat section in Zoom, and also in the comment section on Facebook if you're viewing this live. So this is being live streamed on Facebook, and we will also have a recording uploaded on our YouTube page as well. We will also send out the presentation and any of the continuity templates out to anyone that registered. And if you want to register for that, please go on our website at wyomingvalleychamber.org/events, and we will have them uploaded in there as well. So let's get started. As these past few months have taught us, no one knows what the future holds. So this Wednesday was in partnership with the Wilkes University Small Business Development Center. We'll focus on what businesses can do to prepare themselves for obstacles that may affect business in both short-term and long-term. Today we have with us Dorothy Lane, the director of the Wilkes University Small Business Development Center. The SBDC provides no-cost technical assistance to aspiring entrepreneur and existing small business owners in Carbon, Columbia, Luzerne, Schuylkill, and Sullivan counties. When Dorothy isn't helping small business owners achieve their dreams, she's working on lowering her golf handicap. So Dorothy, tell us what that handicap is, and the floor is yours.
I am not divulging what it is, but I'm just trying to make it lower, that's for sure. I have a long way to go to get where I want to be, that's for sure. But practice, 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 right?
Definitely, definitely. I'm not a golfer, so I don't even know where to begin with a handicap.
Yeah.
The best I could equate it to is bowling.
Okay. Well, I achieved my one goal of breaking 100, so now I'm moving on to let's break 90.
Perfect.
So we'll go from there. So, but I'm so happy to be with everyone today and share some information about planning for small businesses. There are a lot of unknowns that are out there right now. And, you know, I don't think any of us could have figured that we would be in these situations that we've been in the past year or so in trying to navigate our businesses. It's been crazy. But at the Small Business Development Center, for years and years, we have preached about having a continuity plan together for your business so that you are prepared for the unexpected. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit today too, as well as what we think might be coming up in the next few weeks, next few months, as we roll into the new year. A little bit about the Small Business Development Center. As Ahmad had mentioned, our center covers 5 counties, but there's actually a statewide network of Pennsylvania small business development centers, so that every county has access to one of our centers. We're all housed at colleges or universities throughout the Commonwealth. And as you can see from the screen, we are funded by the Small Business Administration on the federal side, and through the Department of Community and Economic Development on the state side. And then certainly our host institution provides us with support as well. And ours, obviously, Wilkes University. But through our network, it works out so well because if we don't have an expert in a certain area, we have access to all of our other partners throughout the state that we can call upon to gather information. The other thing that we have as well is access to a lot of research databases that we subscribe to. So we're not just Googling information for our clients, where we have really great research databases that we can access information so that we can help you make informed decisions as well. All of our services come at no cost to our clients, and everything that we do in working with our clients is 100% confidential, unless, of course, we have the go-ahead from our client to, oops, sorry about that. Oops, where did it go? Here, sorry about that. Unless we have the okay from any of our clients to perhaps reach out to another economic development partner. But as for today's presentation, I'm going to get started. And one thing that we've noticed and we found out that 45% of the businesses have not made any preparations for another closure that might be coming down the pike. And I'm not saying that there is, but I know that has been a concern for some people with a new administration coming in. Is there going to be another shutdown? Are we going to have tighter regulations? We're just not quite sure what's going on. Quite honestly, in talking with some of the folks at the SBA and DCED, I don't see another shutdown coming, a nationwide shutdown of any sort. But it's always good to have some thoughts together so that if something would occur, maybe not for this, but for something else that comes along, so that you can maintain your business operations as best you can. And as I have up here, we always hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. I think my parents taught me that when I was pretty young, to always be prepared. And certainly what we've learned over the past year is the ability to pivot, being absolutely flexible and adaptable. I mean, who knew that, as last February, things were humming along very smoothly. Next thing you know, in March, all of our operations are pretty much remote for the SBDC. So being able to adapt and be flexible has been the key element, I think, for all of us during this. As you're thinking about any interruptions in service, and one thing that we really noticed that most of our clients were lacking in was having financial documents at the ready. When the initial shutdown happened last March, and a lot of the economic development loan programs came through, or any of the grant programs, a lot of them did require you to have financial information that you shared in order to have access to those disaster relief funds. And a lot of our small businesses didn't have them. So a lot of the time that we spent with our clients was either helping them figure out what those documents were that were needed, or helping them actually create the documents that they needed to apply for loans. You'd be surprised how many people, they go about their day-to-day operations, but for the real small mom and pops, they didn't have a lot of this information together. So organizing, gathering, and preparing these documents, I think, is something that we have learned you really have to have at the ready. And when I talk about those documents, usually they want to see some tax returns, balance sheets, profit and loss statements. If you're going for certain loans, they're going to want to see resumes of the key people involved with the business, all of your organization documents, meaning your structure and your license information that you have, sometimes lease and mortgage information. Have those things at the ready. And then lots of times they've been asking for financial projections. And that's sometimes something that, again, small businesses aren't really comfortable in preparing. And that's what we're here for. We are happy to help people put those documents together. So make sure you have that information on hand. The first thing that you want to think about when you're thinking about a potential shutdown or an interruption in your business for any reason is you want to look at your cash reserves. What kind of money do you have on hand, and how quickly are you going to go through that money? We call it kind of a burn rate. How fast are you going to go through that reserve that you have? And you want to look at your budget and see what expenses you actually need to pay should you go into shutdown mode, and do you have enough money to cover those expenses? We usually tell people to do like a weekly scenario, and then also monthly, and then even forecast it out if you're able to know how long you're not going to be in operations. So look at your cash reserves, number one. Obviously, you want to cut any extra expenses that you have. And I know so many of the small businesses have done this, and they're really operating on, next to nothing. They've cut a lot of the fluff that they've had before. So make sure that you have cut everything out of your expenses as best you can. Talk with any of the people who you might be able to negotiate with, any landlords, any vendors that you have, and then prioritize what your spending is going to be based on the critical needs of your business. And then we've told people to, if you can at all help it, you try not to order more inventory. We saw a lot of restaurants fall into this, have this problem when the governor shut down without much warning. They had a lot of perishable food on hand that they then weren't able to use or use as much of as they thought. So try and run your inventory down as low as you can before you replenish it, so you're not caught with a lot of goods on hand that you're not going to be able to use. The other thing that we suggest is to apply for any available relief funds that you might be eligible for. And some people didn't take advantage in the first round of the CARES Act for some of those funds, because I think they thought, we would be past all of this by now, that everything would be on the upswing, and we still aren't there. So if you haven't applied, and there's still opportunity with this next package that has been passed. And I just wanted to go over briefly what is available. And certainly if you're interested in all of this, any funding, and if you have questions, at the end of the presentation, I have my contact information. Please reach out to the office and we can help you through all of the paperwork through this and figure out, if it would be beneficial for you to apply. But first and foremost, if there are any grants that are available, I think most of the grants for Pennsylvania statewide have, the deadlines have come and gone for applications, but you still might find some local communities offering small amounts of grants. For instance, right now Berwick is offering a program. We're helping a lot of the businesses there with a small grant application that's available. But look into grants. They don't need to be repaid. They might just be enough money to tide you over until things pick back up again. As everyone's been buzzing about the past week or so, or past couple of weeks, the Paycheck Protection Program. That's a federally funded program through the Department of the Treasury and the Small Business Administration. That was just refunded at the end of December. Applications opened, I believe, yesterday through the CDFIs, which are the Community Development Financial Institutions. And if you're not familiar with those, the local CDFI is Metro Action, and they are located in the Scranton Chamber of Commerce. They're within the Scranton Chamber. Again, it's called Metro Action. And their fund should be up and running at this point. They're active. The other option is to wait. The banks are going to have these Paycheck Protection Program loans available again as well. They might have even gone active today. I was on a call yesterday with the SBA, and they weren't 100% certain when they were going to become available, but they thought probably by the end of this week. My advice would be, if you're interested in a paycheck protection loan, I would work with the bank that you do business with as the first resort. You already have a relationship with those folks, and hopefully they will get you through the queue of applications relatively quickly and easily. And the other thing is they already have access to a lot of your financial information. So I would work with them. Having said that, some banks might not be participating in this round of Paycheck Protection Program loans. So you might want to check out other banks who are willing to help you process that loan. The last time around, we found that a lot of the more regional banks were willing to take on new customers who were interested in these programs. So if your bank is not doing it, we can help you find a list of banks that are doing it. The Paycheck Protection Program, as you've probably heard, that was designed to essentially keep your employees off of unemployment compensation. And 60% of the funds have to be used for payroll costs and benefits. And then there are other eligible expenses, such as mortgage interest, rent, any PPE that you had to buy for your workers' protection. And then they've also added in any damage or looting or vandalism that occurred through the riots of 2020 that was not covered under property insurance for your business. So PPP is available and active again, and they'll accept applications until March 31st of this year. The EIDL loan, which was the first disaster funding that really became available under the CARES Act in March of last year, has remained open. Not a lot of people realize that, but it is available until the end of calendar year 2021. And that's open to for-profit businesses and nonprofit businesses as well. The interest rates I have here at 3.75 for the for-profit businesses and 2.75% interest for nonprofits. And it's a 30-year term with no prepayment penalty. And if you're thinking that you might need some extra cash to get you through this year, but you're not quite sure, my advice would be to apply for the program. You can go to the SBA website and apply. You have 6 months to decide whether you want to take the money if you are offered the loan. And so that's been kind of a nice little cushion to have in the, on the back burner in case you do realize that you need it. If you take the loan and then realize you don't need it, like it says, you can pay it all back without any penalty. So it's a fairly good interest rate, and it is still open. Now, a lot of people had talked about the EIDL Advance program, which was part of the EIDL application. And the EIDL Advance allowed businesses to get up to $10,000 in advanced working capital. And that advance did not have to be paid back. And usually what they would do, it was up to $10,000, and they would give businesses $1,000 per employee. So we don't know if that's going to become active again. Again, I was on a call yesterday with the Small Business Administration, and they won't even comment on it. They don't know if it's going to become active or not. Keep checking the Wilkes SBDC website or checking the SBA website to see if they have made any movement on that. That's kind of to be determined. But again, just to recap, if you need disaster funding and you're just not sure where you're going to be financially, apply. And if you need assistance, reach out to us and we can help you. The other thing that you've probably done over the past couple of months is you have to develop and grow some revenue streams. And I have to say, I've been so impressed with the small businesses that we've worked with in how they have really reacted to the pandemic. We have had restaurants pivot very well to offering daily specials on Facebook and having people pre-order selections and do curbside pickup or outdoor dining. We've had retailers who have done very similar things, offering different specials, posting a lot of things on Facebook. They've done a lot of Facebook Live events where they're sharing information. We've had manufacturers pivot from making certain types of things, and then perhaps making PPE instead. We've seen a lot of creativity from our small businesses. But the one thing that I would say that has become an essential part of doing business, and I think we were trending this way before the pandemic, but if your business is not online, get it online. You really have an opportunity to grow some business and get the word out there about what you're doing. It's a great communication tool for the clients that you already have, and it is a great way to grow your business by reaching people who might not have heard of your services. If you're really unsure, and a lot of people are, and I totally get it, we have students at our SBDC who we work with a lot, who we can kind of send out to small businesses to help them figure out how to do social media, how to put their daily specials for their menu online, how to take orders. Same thing with Facebook Live. We can help you figure that out. The other thing is when I say we, America's SBDC, that's our national association, they have now partnered with Grow with Google, and they're offering free webinars at the link that I have up here that will be available to you as well, to figure out, how to get your business growing online. And these are free webinars and training that you have available through America's SBDC. So if you can participate in that, and if you're not completely fatigued by virtual meetings and training, I would recommend getting on board with some of those. If you've switched to remote work, as we have done during the pandemic, consider making those things permanent. Sometimes it's just for continuity purposes, having everything in place. It might be best for your business if it's worked really well. If you've been struggling with working remotely and it doesn't lend itself all that well to every type of business, you want to see kind of what went wrong and what improvements you can make over the next couple of weeks or so to make it more effective. As I had said, if you're having troubles with working remotely for whatever reason, maybe you're confused with Zoom or Google Meets or whatever it is, if you have some questions, reach out to our office, or certainly maybe even the chamber can help too. That's what we're available to do to kind of help make this a lot easier for you. I would say first and foremost, other than having all of your financial documents in order, the other thing that we have found has been so essential is communicating in general. Communicating not only with your employees, but also your customers. You want to make sure that your employees know exactly what you're doing. Are you operating remotely? Are you coming back into the office? What type of schedule are you keeping in the office? Are you on a rotating basis? How often is the office being cleaned? What are your human resources protocols in terms of reporting whether someone is sick and contact tracing? Will people get paid for being out sick? How are you handling people who have little kids at home? All of those things have to be considered and communicated very well to your employees. On the flip side, your customers are looking for you, hopefully, during this time. They still want to shop with you. They're looking for ways to be continuing their relationship with you. So especially, if you have clients who really are, they rely on you to get goods or services to them so that they can fulfill their jobs, you need to let them know how everything is working and if you're still in business, if your hours are the same, if there are delays in delivery, if there's a backlog in your work. You really have to make that crystal clear so that everything can go on very smoothly. The other thing that we have been talking about, when I say we, the small business development centers, is preparing a business continuity plan. And as you can imagine, living in the Wyoming Valley, one of the things that we've seen for many years now is being prepared in case there is a flood. And that's always kind of been what we've focused our attention on when we talk about business continuity planning. We've looked more at natural disasters, fires, and those types of things. A pandemic is pretty new to everybody. We haven't had one of these in the 100 years or so, and it certainly wasn't on anyone's radar, but we have learned to adjust. Anymore, when we do our startup sessions with our new clients, one of the things that we talk to them about as they lay out the groundwork for a new business is making sure that they have a continuity plan in place so that they are ready should disaster strike. So a couple things, the elements of a continuity plan, and we're sharing all of our continuity plan resources with you after this, so you'll have access to them. But your operations is something that you want to look at. You want to look at your location. Do you have an alternative location in place should the location that you're working in not be available to you any longer? So in this case with the pandemic, remote work from home has been what the alternative has been. You know, in other situations, you might have two different locations of a business. Maybe one isn't accessible because of a fire. Can everything be moved to the second location? There are things that you need to think about when you look at your operations. You want to have emergency numbers for everybody that you're going to be needing contact with. An emergency number is not only for your employees so that you can keep them abreast of what your plans are and how you're going to roll out your new way of doing business, but you also want to have the emergency numbers of first responders. Should you need those, they need to be somewhere very visible in your organization. But you also want to have emergency contact numbers for vendors, distributors, bankers, your insurance agent, anything like that should be in an emergency contact section of a continuity plan. You also want to identify the different types of emergencies that you might think your business will experience. And again, you know, you want to identify what you would do in a flood, what you would do in a fire, an earthquake. Now we have to add pandemic to that list of emergencies that our businesses might have to endure. So you want to identify those things, and then you have to come up with a way as how you're going to react to those emergencies, because they're all going to be a little bit different because you'll have access to different things depending on the type of emergency. One thing that you really should have, and every business has insurance, you want to have access to your insurance policy information. Hopefully you're able to store a lot of your documents in the cloud and have access to them from any place where you're working. We've also suggested to businesses to keep things on a thumb drive. If you're not really tech savvy, you know, just have it on a thumb drive so that you can plug it into a computer somewhere and access your files and all the information about your insurance policy right then and there. One thing to note, and it's been a real bone of contention too, is lots of businesses did have business interruption insurance, and you should have that as part of your insurance policy if you're a small business. But sadly, a lot of insurance companies did not have a pandemic as part of their business interruption or wouldn't honor that. So I think that's going to be something that will be a point of discussion. I would hope it's a point of discussion when you're renewing your insurance policy information. Is there something that will provide for an interruption for a pandemic? Continuing on, supplier information should be spelled out in your continuity plan. Who are your suppliers? Who are the contact people at your suppliers, and how are you going to reach them, either by phone or an email address? And then the other thing that happens is, what if something happens to some of your suppliers? You know, maybe it's a flood. Maybe your suppliers aren't available anymore to supply you with the goods you need to operate your business. What's your alternative going to be? Have a list of backup suppliers at the ready, just in case you need to call on them. The same thing with a distributor. Maybe your distributor has been wiped out through some sort of an emergency and they're not able to distribute your goods any longer. Again, have a list of distributors who can do that for you. All of this, you know, takes a lot of pre-planning, and quite frankly, it's not something that you really want to do, because none of us ever want to think about all of the awful things that can happen through a natural disaster or a man-made disaster or a pandemic. But I think this pandemic has really shined the light on why it's necessary to be prepared with these things. You also want to have information in there about fire safety. You want to talk about if you have a fire safety system in your business, who is it through? What's the contact information? You want to have fire drills. You want to make sure that things that need to be kept waterproof are not going to be ruined through a sprinkler system. You want to look at your fire safety. You want to look at your utilities as well. Who are your utility providers? Contact information for them in case you're in a situation where you need to have, say, power shut off to your business for one reason or another. You also want to think about like a backup generator for your business, and invest in something that, isn't just short term. You want to have something that maybe is plugged into a gas line so that you can continue operations for long periods of time on a backup generator. You want to think about damage mitigation before it happens. So again, this primarily refers to if it's more of a natural disaster. So if there is a fire, or if there is an earthquake, or if there is a flood, you want to make sure, like, for instance, a lot of, say, your computers are able to be moved to a location that would be secure, perhaps on a second floor, pretty easily, if you know that a flood is coming. You want to have certain things in a fireproof room if possible. Like if you have a server of some sort, we suggest trying to put that in some sort of a fireproof room, or have that set aside somewhere, or a backup at an alternative location. So you can do that. We don't have earthquakes here, but you want to make sure that shelving is attached to the wall securely. You want to make sure that heavy objects aren't on top shelves. Anything that would get damaged by water during a flood, again, you want to make those plans to move those to a higher location. I can remember, I guess it was in 98, I'm kind of dating myself, but I remember going to the SBDC and moving all of our computers up to the third floor of our location. So you want to have that as part of your plan. You also want to have an evacuation plan. Again, similar to a fire drill at a school, you want to make sure that you have a plan in place to evacuate your location should a fire occur, or something happen that you need to get your employees out or your customers out. Have a plan in place. You should also have some emergency supplies on hand. I think now we've learned that has to be cleaning supplies as well. But you want to have first aid kits of a reasonable amount on hand that match the number of employees that you have. You want to check with your employees as to who has first responder skills, who knows CPR, who knows the Heimlich maneuver, those types of things. Who's able to lift heavy items in your workplace if you need to move things. You also want to have a note as to your employees with any disabilities who may need assistance in not only evacuating a situation, but are they going to be able to operate remotely from another location or from their home? So you want to look into those things as well. The one big thing that's really come up, and we've seen a lot of news on computer security, cybersecurity. And it's not just with the pandemic, but you want to make sure that your computers and your computer information is secure. If you're taking in any customer's information, you have to make sure and do your due diligence that that information can be kept safe. So there are a lot of steps that you can take in doing that, making sure that you have a secure site. Some of them are very easy to do, like making sure your passwords get changed on your employees' computers, making sure that computers get shut down at night so that people don't have access to them. There are a whole bunch of different things that you can do, from the really easy to the much more secure. If you're doing any government contracts, there are special steps that you have to take with working with government contracts. Again, we have some information on that at the SBDC that we're happy to share. Just reach out to us and we can give you more information on cybersecurity. As I had mentioned earlier, records backup is critical. We have worked with a lot of small businesses during floods over the years, and that's the one thing that we continually see, is that they don't have their records backed up, meaning they don't have they've kept, number one, a lot of their information at the workplace, which is understandable, but they don't have backups at a second location. So tax returns, balance sheets, any financial information always seems to get lost when our small businesses experience flooding. And a lot of the work that we do then is going in and helping our clients recreate a lot of these documents, which is very, very, very difficult. So our recommendation is, again, if you can keep backup at another location, secure them on a thumb drive, keep another set of records with your accountant, whatever the case may be, but have those records backed up so that if you do need to apply for an emergency loan, you have all of those records at the ready, because it can take a long time to reproduce those things. And certainly when you're in an emergency or a crisis situation and you need cash through an emergency loan, whether it be through the federal government or through your bank, they're going to want to see that information. You have to have that all at the ready. And then last but not least, you have to have employee emergency contact information for each and every employee, so that you can make sure that they're aware of what's going on with your new operations. And also just, you want to be a good employer and check in on those people and make sure that everyone is okay, and let them know, keep them apprised of everything that's going on with the operations. I think that's all that I have. I know it was a lot of information, and I know there's a lot of different types of businesses that are out there. So does anyone have any questions that I might be able to answer for you? Anything that I didn't cover or you were hoping that would be covered that I can address?
Hey, Dorothy, thank you so much for providing all of that information. Just listening through, there's a lot of things on there that, you know, as business owners are going through their day-to-day, they probably don't think about. And just you guys zeroed in on some awesome stuff, even like a lot of the flood stuff, just being in the area that we do live in. I know the wall was just taken down just the first Monday of the year. You know, it's something we have to consider here in this area. And just a lot of the things too about the services that you guys offer. You know, you can get that information by going on your website, but just hearing it from you, it's just so much that from the outside, you don't think that is provided. So kudos to you and your team and everything that you guys do there. 2 questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier about identifying or having alternative revenue streams. What ways can entrepreneurs and small business owners, you know, identify those as they work through?
Yeah. So obviously one of the, I don't want to say the easiest, but one of the alternatives that comes to mind first is, you know, putting your business online and opening yourself up to a whole new market of customers by having a presence online and selling that way. But there are some alternative things too that people can do. And through this pandemic, actually, we worked with a number of our manufacturers and some service providers, quite frankly, who hadn't really thought about doing business with the government. And, you know, getting into government contracting, if you have a product or a service that the government wants, or I would wholeheartedly say, get your act together so that you can start to apply for government contracts, because that's a really good source of revenue if you can get that contract. And it opens up a lot of different doors too. And not only government contracts, but lots of times there are other organizations, like for instance, our one partner, the Pittsburgh Small Business Development Center, they just sent a note out the other day that the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, they do a solicitation for goods and services. They buy, as you can imagine, a boatload of different things. And so they're opening it up to new vendors to have people hopefully get new contracts with UPMC. So they're the types of alternatives, and we can maybe help small businesses identify some of those other revenue streams.
And are you guys able to provide just guidance with finding those contracts and applying for them?
Yep, absolutely. We can give some basic guidance, but then we also work with our local procurement offices in the different regions. And the procurement offices really have access to a lot of the government databases as to what contracts are coming up for bid. So we work hand in hand with those folks and make referrals to them as well to let people know about what might be available.
Awesome, thank you. On there too, you mentioned about building a website, having additional storage, having cybersecurity and just IT services and stuff to back up a lot of the information that businesses may have. I know for us locally, if anyone is looking to do business with other local businesses in the area, you can go on the wyomingvalleychamber.org/RFP to submit a request for proposals, and local businesses will bid on your business. This way it stays here within the local economy. Do you guys have anything like that on your end where other businesses can find a list of suppliers and distributors or even services?
I'm just trying to think. Yes and no. we have some things, but on a state level, a little bit more comprehensive. We work with the Department of Community and Economic Development on some of those things. So, but no, I don't have anything local, but more statewide.
Thank you. And then again, with the suppliers and distributors, you mentioned about businesses knowing who they are, having their contacts and stuff. Is there a way that if they need to find new suppliers and distributors that the SBDC can help, or how they can go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. If someone is looking for a new distributor, a new supplier, even, sometimes a new manufacturer, if they rely on someone to manufacture something for them, through our network, we can identify those sources. We can do a lot at our office, and then we have some sister centers who can do some stuff too. So yeah, we can help with that.
Perfect. Well, I think as I look here, there's no other questions. There are no other questions. And with that, I want to thank you for your time, for joining us here today, sharing your expertise, and just all of the services available at the SBDC for anyone to take advantage of. There's your contact information if everybody wants to get a hold of you. And I believe it's sbdc.org is the website that they can go on.
It is www.wilkes.sbdc. Yep. Wait, now I'm going to get it wrong. I should have put that up there. www.wilkes.edu/SBDC.
Perfect. And just so everyone knows, we will have this presentation emailed out to everyone that did register. And Dorothy provided us with 3 different templates for continuity plans. We'll have those linked in there as well, so you can take advantage of that and work through that. So with that, I want to thank you all for spending your lunch hour with us. This session will be available on the Facebook for you to view after. Share with anyone that you feel will benefit from this information. And also it'll be located on our YouTube pages for you to access in the future. Please check out our past Wednesday Wisdoms. On there, we did do one in terms of getting your business online, if that's something you're looking ahead to do after this presentation today, and various other topics that you can find on there. If you have a topic in mind that you would like to see us cover, please email us at events@wyomingvalleychamber.org, and we will try to find a local expert to help get information on that topic for you. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date on all the upcoming events that are happening locally in our community. So with that, I want to say have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks, Ahmad.
Thank you, Dorothy.